Alright, welcome back to episode 2 of our SketchUp series, in which we are going to learn how to navigate SketchUp and use it to be able to draw some 3D models. So today's lesson is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to get into some very simple drawing. So we're going to be talking about lines and rectangles. So typically speaking, when we talk about lines or rectangles, it seems like it might be a little boring, but there are some rules that you need to understand about this particular program when you are actually going in and drawing those two objects. We're also going to teach you guys how to be accurate with these particular models, so we can actually put in real measurements and it will honor those. So getting back from our first lesson with navigation, we want to again emphasize that the X is in the red, Y is in the green, and the Z is in the blue. Okay, so what happens is when we start drawing things, I'm going to come over here with my pencil tool, and when I start clicking on stuff, it might be super fun and interesting to actually start drawing in a very fun way various different objects. Now, as we said previously, this is a 2D screen. And when you look at this initially, you might say, hey, that's a flat object. But again, let's come in here and orbit around and see if it is in fact a flat object. So a quick reminder, when we are orbiting, even though we're in the pencil tool, all I have to do is click down on my scroll wheel, and that allows me to orbit. That does not look very flat. That's actually very unflat. So this is what we were talking about previously, where we could have an optical illusion in regards to drawing in three-dimensional space. So how do we make sure that we are actually drawing in the correct plane, okay, or getting to what we want to do? Well, we want to use these red, green, and blue axis lines to aid us in inferring the proper dimensions. So what does that look like? Well, pretty straightforward. In order to start drawing a line, we have two options. We can either left click, okay, I just clicked once on the mouse button, and now I can drag it out. And you'll see that as I'm dragging my line, if I'm parallel in the x-axis, my line turns red. Okay, if I'm not parallel with the x-axis, it's going to remain black. And what happens is when I get close to that, it snaps and changes colors. So when I'm drawing out and my line's red, we're parallel to X. Okay, now I'm going to click a second time to exit out or to complete that line segment. Okay, and then we can come in here, and again, if I want to draw in the green axis, I would then allow that to snap to green and click a second time to get that line segment. Again, coming in here to red, okay, and I could then come back over here. Now watch very carefully what happens when I complete a series of lines and it comes back around, if you will, to my first point. This all gets shaded in. Okay, so one of the purposes of drawing lines is to create a surface. Okay, and if I come back in here to my orbit tool, you can see that in fact this particular object is flat in the red and green axis, but it is filled in. So when I look at it from above, it's not see-through. And kind of the same concept here. If I wanted to draw in the blue axis, I would draw it up until it snaps to blue, and then I can again come over to red. Now very quickly here, we'll get more into this later, but you'll see that when I get to the hover over this particular corner, my line infers a dotted blue line indicating I am directly above that. So if I click again, that creates a new surface that's going to be in the red-blue plane. So as you can see here, my object is starting to come together in 3D space. So again, here I'm going to click on this, go up in the blue, And again, you can see that I'm inferring to this corner here because that's what I just finished drawing in. And we'll get more into this when we get into talking about inferencing. But I can actually infer from that corner. Okay, which this kind of looks a little freaky right now because is it coming at you or is it going away? Alright, and again I can come in here. Because that dotted line is popping up, I know it's the same height. Even though it might not look like it from my perspective, I need to trust the program in that it is drawing that out for me. And that is my first 3D model that I've made, okay, by just drawing lines. Couple rules with lines, okay. If I want to draw a line, I never want to go over an object like that, okay. Typically speaking, what you'd want to do is if you wanted to draw something like this, you would click to end it there, click again to draw a brand new one, okay. You don't just simply take a line and go crossing over other line segments, okay. That is a no-go. So let me just back up, okay. The second way to draw a line, outside of just clicking once, drawing a line, clicking a second time to exit out of that, so that's just one line segment. I can click and hold and draw a line segment, and then when I let go, it completes that line segment. So what are the differences there? Well, the first way, let me go ahead and back out. If I click once, draw out, and click a second time, it's going to allow me to continue drawing from that object. Okay. So this is a great way to kind of run a chain of line segments until eventually you come back and complete that and a surface is drawn. So let me go ahead and undo that. Okay, where if I just click and hold and then let go, it just creates a single line segment that's not attached to anything. Okay, and again I can come in here and draw all sorts of stuff on this. Okay, so that's your line segment, nothing too fancy with that. Let me go ahead and delete this whole object. Now let's get into rectangle tools. Okay, or the rectangle tool. Click on the rectangle, which is right here. Again, like our line segment, I click once and let go. Okay, so I'm not on my mouse, and then I'm able to drag this out and click a second time, and that creates my rectangle with a surface already pre-installed on it. Okay. You could click and hold like your line segment and then let go as well. However, let's get in the habit of clicking once, clicking a second time for rectangles. It just seems to work a little nicer when doing the rectangles. Alright. Other things that you may have noticed. When I'm drawing this, there sometimes is a dotted or dashed line that goes from corner to corner. That is going to appear when one of two conditions is met. Either it's a perfect square, meaning that it is in the x, y, or z axis the same in the second dimension, because a square has equal line segments going all the way around, or equal length line segments. Or if we have what's called a golden rectangle. And the reason why it's called a golden rectangle is because this particular rectangle is 2 times longer than it is wide. So it's 2 times 1. So if we had a measurement, it would measure 1 inch wide by 2 inches long, if that makes sense. Pretty straightforward. Okay. And the nice thing about rectangles is not only can you draw it in on the floor, which is red and green axis, but if I orbit around here, I can now draw in the blue-green axis. You'll notice that my rectangle is turning green there. Or I can orbit around, turn it, and create my rectangle in the green-blue axis. Notice how my rectangle is red in this case. Okay, and if I'm obviously in the green-red, it's going to be blue. Okay, so real quick, easy way to navigate or draw your rectangles when it comes to which plane that you want to do in. All right, let me kind of scroll over here. I wonder, oh, there it is. Okay, so I have an object here just as a demonstration purpose. If I have a rectangle, again, I can draw on the surface of other objects by just clicking on the surfaces, and it will orientate itself to that surface, which is kind of fun. Okay, so that's again another way to do things. But just like line tools, the line tool where we do not want to cross our section here like that, that would be not good. We would want to click end, click end, click end. Alright, we'll get into more details about why you would want to do that later on, but something you'd want to get in habit of. Same thing with our particular rectangle. You would not want to do this where I'm crossing over the lines. That's no go. Okay, but it is okay to draw on one edge. Oops, what did I do here? Oops. There we go. Oops, let me get out of here. Okay, so I can go from this edge to this edge. Even though that is technically on top of one another, it's not going to key that way up in SketchUp. Okay, so that's how you can draw things. That is totally fine. We just don't want to cross the line. That would be bad. Okay. Alright, finally let's go ahead and get rid of this. I'm going to use my Zoom Extends tool once again to get back to my 0, 0 origin. And how can we be accurate with measurements? Well, let's start out with our line tool. If I click once and I start dragging it out in a particular distance, you'll notice that over here on my right shoulder there is a little measurement box that's actually giving you the measurement of this particular length of line. Now, without clicking on anything, okay, I've already started my line. I can actually type in how long I want that to be. So right now it's 1 foot 5 5/8 of an inch. But what if I wanted it to be 2 feet? Okay, I'm just going to scoot off to the side here. I can type in 2 and then an apostrophe. Okay, so obviously you can see that's 2 feet. I then hit enter, and then SketchUp does the rest of the work there and completes that for me. By the way, a little fun side tip here: if you ever find yourself that you are drawing a line and it's attached and you want to complete that or just end it, all you have to do is hit escape. Bam, just like that. Okay. If you want to do inches, again, I left click once, I'm dragging out my line. Okay, now I'm at 2 feet 2 3/8 inch, but I can go 24 inches. Inches, I have to go shift apostrophe, which is going to give you the quotation marks. Okay, do not put down 2 apostrophes because it's going to see that first apostrophe and think it's feet. Okay, make sure you're putting in quotation marks. Then enter, and now that's measured at 24 inches. And again, if you want to get rid of any additional lines that are still attached, hit the escape key. Okay, so that's how we can be accurate with lines in measuring. Rectangles, on the other hand, slightly different, because rectangles or squares have 2 dimensions. We need to enter 2 dimensions in to get our rectangle. So what does that look like? Again, looking over here in this box in the bottom right corner, I could type in 2 apostrophe for feet, comma, then another measurement, let's say 3 apostrophe. So this particular rectangle that we're about to make, it's going to be 2 foot by 3 foot. And again, I would hit enter, and now SketchUp completes that rectangle. So again, as an example, click once, okay? As I'm dragging this out, I'm just drawing it in the direction I want to draw it in. Before I click a second time to end that rectangle, that's when I'm going to enter in my measurement. So let's go 24 inches, which is quotation marks, comma, 48 inches, again, quotation marks. I don't click on my mouse, I hit enter. And then obviously that's completed. Okay? So let's cover what we did, or review real quick what we did. We talked about line tools and rectangle tools. We talked about how the ability to be able to draw in the red, green, and blue axis is going to allow us to be able to maintain in the planes that we want to draw it in, and that way it's not kind of going all over the place and has an optical illusion. We talked about the rectangle tool and how to draw those with 2 clicks, and how to draw those in the various different axes. We also showed you guys real quick how to be accurate when drawing lines or rectangles. That'll come back in later handy. So the best thing to do is to get into SketchUp right now after watching this video and just start drawing lines. Start drawing rectangles. Make a bunch of mistakes. Come back, watch this video again, because if you watch it again and again and again, I will guarantee you every time you watch this, you're going to pick up on something different that you didn't see last time. Okay? Just practice. Go in there, type in some stuff. If you do make mistakes, say, okay, this is what I wanted it to do. This is what it did. Where's the disconnect? Okay? We'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for tuning in.